What's up, friends? It's me, Charlie. Welcome to Wishbone Willow Farm.
Yeah, you nailed it. What's up, friends? Jill here. Welcome back. Today I have my sweet Charlie Brooke because it is her 6th birthday. Can you believe you're 6 years old? You can? Do you feel older? You do? Do you feel wiser?
What does wiser
It
mean?
means like you're smarter. Do you feel smarter? Yeah? Okay. So since it is Charlie's birthday, we have already had her favorite dinner, which is...
Hibachi.
which is actually hibachi. But Nathan and the kids have this little thing where they have called it hibachi since she was really little. So we drove to the nearest town, got some hibachi for her to eat, and now she is actually gonna do a garden tour with me. Help explaining some of the things that's in the garden, and any day that Charlie gets to be on a vlog, she absolutely loves it. So this will be our full garden tour, week 2. A lot of things got done in the garden today. While Charlie was at school, I spent most of the day getting everything mulched and cleaned up. Now, while I did not get it all finished because that is a very big project for one person, I got a lot of it done, and I'm really excited to show you guys everything but one small portion is planted, and I am just so excited to show you guys. Are you ready? Are you gonna explain to them some stuff in the garden too? Okay, we're gonna take them over here and start there first, okay? The bed's off the deck. Okay. So this video will be a little bit different than the typical garden tours. It may take a little bit longer to film. However, Charlie really does enjoy any time she gets to be on a video with me. And so when she asked if she could do the garden tour, of course I wasn't going to say no. And especially since it was her birthday, I think this is going to be something that's going to be really, really sweet for us to remember in the coming years. As she grows up, we can go back and reference this video at really the first legit farm she grew up on. And so this is just going to be really special. So thank you guys for hanging out with us through this garden tour. That may be a bit different than the ones you've seen in the past. I'm hopeful that it will be a very sweet memory for you guys as well as us. All right, girlfriend, you ready? All right, well, we're gonna start right over here, okay?
Okay.
So what in this bed do you know so we can show them?
Lettuce.
Lettuce, okay. So we have got our scarlet kale, which is doing really, really good. Isn't that pretty too? Yeah, it's pretty. We've got our chard that is just looking mighty fine. I actually moved, this was that Salvanova lettuce that was in the other bed, and I moved this head and this head in here because I needed to plant a tomato where this was, and I planted the tomatoes around the other ones, but I transplanted this out like last week and it's done really well. Then we've got our lettuce leaf basil back there. We have our lime basil, which took a really long time in the greenhouse, just even getting established. I started it several times. Still very, very slow growing. I did go through today and just heavily seed cut and come again lettuces, and then I did throw some nasturtiums in here and one down there just to kind of help with some pests. All right, where are we going next? You want to go show them the greenstalks? Okay, let's go show them. You help me plant some of those. You and Peyton. All right, we have made it to the leaf greenstalk. Charlie, you tell me what's in here. You think you can do that? Okay, what do we got?
Onions.
Yes, we've got some chives right here. What does this look like?
Kale.
Kale. What about this? Do you know what that looks like? These are beans. Mommy, remember you planted those bush beans with me?
Yay!
Look, it's right here. Look at that. Little guy's just asking for a hug. So what about this? What are all these red things?
Lettuce.
Yep, those are lettuce. We've got more kale, more chives, more beans. I did transplant some beets in here today. More beans up here, more kale, my spinach. Look at that, you guys.
So that's what this is.
Yes, that is spinach. Mommy puts these in your smoothie all the time.
Yum.
And then I did have some nasturtiums. Well, I put another beet up here. Oh, here's the nasturtium. So I had a nasturtium. My idea was that it would just come out. So Charlie has helped me plant some of this, and then the other green stalk over here, which I'll show you guys in a second, Peyton helped me plant, and my niece Mackenzie. These are really great. I've done a lot of extensive videos on this, but they are actually running a sale right now through May 10th, to where you can get the 5-tier original planter, which is what I have right here. You can use my code WWFarm, which I'll put up on the screen, but I'll leave it in the description below, and you can get $10 off, which puts these right at $100, which is a pretty good deal. I do want to tell you guys this though, because it really does matter, and I have learned this firsthand with the Greenstalk. So this one right here is the one I had my herbs in. I've got some lettuce, some spinach. Some of the things on the back end are doing good. The oregano, I've got this thyme, my tri-sage. But you can see this one here, right? I mean, things are growing, but they're not like just protruding out. Versus this one that I planted way later, and I'm already harvesting off of it and it's much fuller. And you might ask, why is that? Well, that is because with this I used a really good mushroom compost and a really good organic raised bed potting mix. And that is something that Greenstalk mentions all the time, that these really do need good quality soil to thrive. That one over there, I used soil that I had left, and I knew I was taking a gamble, and I did it anyways. And I can tell you that I'm seeing a direct reflection of my poor choice in my plants. So if you do grab a Greenstalk, I would just really encourage you to buy a good quality organic soil with some sort of fertilizer already added in it. All right, do you remember the tomatoes that you planted?
Yeah.
Do you remember what kind they were?
No.
Okay, so they're called paste tomatoes. And they're for making like spaghetti sauce. They're for making ketchup, like that type of stuff. They're not like the tomatoes that we just cut up and eat on a sandwich. And you know how Mommy's tomato plants usually get really, really tall?
Yeah.
These are going to stay squatty. Remember the ones Mommy grew in the tunnel?
Yeah.
These are going to look a lot like that. They're doing better, as you guys can see. I got some straw down today. So when I was thinking through what to fertilize them with, my original thought was fish emulsion, because I already had that. I had it because it's what I fertilized all my plant starts with. And then when I was talking to Nathan about that, he reminded me that a few months ago I made all this rabbit compost tea, which a huge reason why we keep our rabbits is for fertilizer for the compost and for the garden. Now, while I could put it directly on the garden, you know, it is a dry manure, and so I could have taken their poop and just directly put it on the garden. Because June's out here with me all the time, I'd never really loved that idea. I didn't trust her. And so I ended up making a rabbit compost tea, and I added coffee grounds, I added kitchen scraps, I added their manure, a bunch of water. And I just did an entire process. I do have a video on that, so if that's something you have rabbits and you might be interested in, I'll link it down below. And so I took that today and I had a huge spray bottle, and I put just a little bit of the compost tea and filled the rest up with water, and I sprayed around the base of my plant. So I'm going to give this a little bit and see if I can't start seeing some sort of improvements, and if I do, then I'll just continue to do the rabbit compost tea as needed. If I'm not really seeing that it's doing what I am needing it to do, then I'll go ahead and start looking at maybe into the fish emulsion, or try to figure out exactly what's going on. But these plants right here that Charlie planted were actually the ones that looked the best out of all the tomatoes that I had planted. They are certainly growing, some quicker than others. This is the San Marzano paste and is definitely growing faster. And then we have these down here. This is the Ace 55 from Haas. It's still not growing as fast, but they're coming along. Well, Charlie took a phone call from her sister Peyton. I'm gonna try to get through some of this quickly why it might be a bit easier. You want to hop in on the garden tour?
No, I'm picking weeds.
You're picking weeds. I will tell you though, so I see Nathan out. I asked him to help me plant some stuff this afternoon. And I see him in parts of the garden that I didn't remember asking him to plant stuff. I was like, oh, what you doing there? And he said he was planting me little surprises, and he did tell me that they were sunflowers, so this will be a mystery. He planted them, I don't even know, everywhere that he planted them, but he said that we could all be surprised together, and so I think that's actually going to be kind of fun. This year, since it is my last growing season here, I'm not taking it too seriously.
Good.
Nathan says good. I'm just trying to honestly just have fun with it. Know that there's really no pressure on this year's garden. You know, I mean, obviously I want it to be successful. However, I was watching Jess's garden tour the other day, and she was saying that all the volunteers that pop up have a place in her garden, and I thought, I really like that. So, although I haven't seen a ton of volunteers, I'm sure, you know, if there's volunteers in the zinnia patch, I will obviously have to pull those. But in these beds right here, I thought, well, that would be really fun that if some things just came up, just to let them have a space and see what happens. So we're just kind of doing things a little different this year, but I feel good about it because it just allows me the freedom to just have fun with it and not really have to worry about it. And of course, I've got my basil over here in the center block. Someone had asked me what I recommend planting if you're doing a center block bed. I have found that herbs do really well, and then also flowers. I have planted zinnias in the past. Marigold, like a dwarf marigold variety, would probably do really well. So if you're looking into a center block bed, they really do have a dual purpose, and you can attract what pollinators will be really beneficial to your plants, and even kind of companion plants in a way. See, all of our onions are doing good. We did have our noodle beans that came up. I think I might have showed you guys that the other day. So far, all the little guys have popped up. I think I'm waiting on like one. So usually, you know, if I know I planted a seed here, I'm just pushing back the mulch. That way it can kind of come up easily. I only think I'm waiting on two. But that one's popped up. Got this little guy down here. And then most of these over here have popped up as well. So I'm actually really excited to have these back in the garden this year. So I have my little galvanized tub here of just randomness. I've got different varieties of nasturtium. I've got this lettuce leaf basil. And then I think this was the lime basil. And I mean, eventually these are all going to get big. My hope was that these would just protrude out the nasturtiums, and then the basil would just kind of thrive. It smells really good over here. So down here, I've still got my pepper plant. I think it's the lilac bell. This little guy's actually growing and doing well. And then I just threw an extra nasturtium I had here in the corner. It was left in a pot in the greenhouse that I forgot about. So it doesn't look that great, but I'm hoping it will bounce up. And the idea is just to add some companions, and it'll just be really pretty. Now I did go through and I sowed a whole stinking bunch of cucumbers. So I think I put 5 cucumbers per trellis just with the hope that something would come up. Nathan bought some citronella plants for me, and I have been separating them out and just sticking them in all the cute things I can find around here. This was an old teapot. I don't know, I just think adding quirky stuff like that in the garden's fun. Someone even asked me, what are your mason jars on your trellis? These have the solar light. These are really, really old. You guys can kind of see the light in there though. And it just lights up the garden, and it's really pretty to be able to look out from my bedroom window at night and just see all these little lights throughout the garden. You know, the garden is certainly one of those places that I'm spending majority of my time out here. And so while yes, I do like to grow the flowers that are beautiful to look at, and I actually get joy out of seeing all the vegetables starting to, you know, set their fruits and put off and things like that, I do also like to add a decorative flag here and there. You'll see wind chimes hanging on my trellises. You'll see little knickknacks. I've got a little yoga frog over here. Those are things that, because I am spending so much time out here, I do like to pretty up the garden, or decorate the garden, if you will. Those are just those little things that when I'm in the store, I usually can't just walk by. I always want to bring them home. I always think that they have a place in my garden. Here in this bed, we have got the mystery pepper, which is starting to put off little peppers. Can y'all see that? See that little pepper right there? It has already gotten some pest damage, so this will be the one that I am sprinkling some dipel dust on. Look at that. Our marigold's still looking mighty fine. It looks like one's about to burst open any day here. We've got our tomatoes down here and our peppers. Our lettuce is still doing good. We've been harvesting quite a bit of that. Go through and take these little guys off. They're still not quite big enough to where I feel okay that they're setting blossoms. I really just want them to establish on root growth. And honestly, with these, I should probably tear these off too. But look at that guy. He's so cute. I don't know that I can do it. I mean, look at that. That is so amazing. Also another mystery pepper. We've got more salvanova lettuce, which is just, I mean, it is looking great. And that other one I transplanted, I literally just came out here with a spade, got up under the root systems, and just plopped it out. It did so good. Look at those colors, though. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, that is some pretty lettuce.
Hi.
Are you coming back to help me? Oh,
Yes.
Watch where you're stepping, okay? Mommy's got stuff planted all in there. Look how pretty that lettuce is, Char. Go take it to Daddy.
Can I eat it?
Sure. Tell me what it tastes like. There might be some dirt on it, but...
Tastes like lettuce.
tastes like lettuce. You want to go see if Dad wants some? I transplanted out my beets today, and I had a couple extra, so I just threw them in the ground. These were the bull's blood beets. Now I do know that it is interesting to transplant out my beets. However, I have stated before that that is how I do it, and I have really good success. So I'm hopeful that it will be a good little season this year as well. I've got more tomatoes over here. These are still my paste tomatoes. And then over here I have saved a space. If you guys see, I actually have the seeds. I just never got to finish. I never got to plant these today. And so these are the Henderson lima beans. They are a bush bean variety, and they don't get really big. They're just like kind of small pods. And so my plan is just to fill this area up with that, because here we have our tromboncino squash, which looks like some stuff starting to happen. It looks way better. It did not look that well whenever I transplanted it out, but now it looks a lot better. And then the noodle beans are on this side as well. Our zinnias are looking really good. I do see some lacing on the leaf. Again, so strange. I mean, things that I never dealt with last year. This is just the life of a gardener, right? You're having to learn and adapt and problem solve quickly. Which, although I don't like my plants like being directly affected by that, I do like having to go back to those resources that usually are just kind of stuffed in the back of my brain somewhere, right? Like I'm not having to quickly problem solve and look at something and figure out what the solution is. So I do actually like that, because it just makes me a lot more diverse in what I know. So if you guys can see here, I've got something just munching through them. Little holes all in here. So this will also probably get sprinkled with some dipel dust. However, they are growing really nicely. I was really relieved to get this bed completely mulched and done today. Some of these are getting pretty tall. Look at that. Little zinnia babies. So yeah, this whole bed is just doing pretty good. I also have more beets over here in the salvanova paste tomato bed. So I just kind of plucked some of those here. I left them outside during the rainstorm, and they were just so saturated whenever I transplanted them out. Honestly, had I not transplanted them out when I did, they probably would have all died. So these are just some little little guys. So I did mention, whenever say I direct sowed something and then was gonna come back in and mulch, I am gonna just keep the mulch, whatever it is that you're mulching with, away give it some space to where it can come up and it's not spending so much energy trying to push through a heavy layer of mulch. For those, I just went ahead and made a little pocket. I'd already mulched that bed, and then I just made a little pocket in there and plucked them down in there. And also, while they're still trying to get really established, I'm gonna keep going through and making sure that they're not staying really covered up with that straw. And then of course, when they start developing bulbs and they start, you know, forming the root of the beet, then it's no big deal. I can mulch around it pretty well. That is something I always just try to be mindful of, is when you think about that little plant spending all of its energy just to try to become established and, you know, develop, I really don't want it to be wasting any extra energy just trying to push through an extra layer of mulch that it really doesn't. If you can eliminate, you know, that extra little step for that plant, then by all means do it. Also, I have here several rows, or 2 rows of several radishes. So I did not mulch that, as you guys can see, for the same purpose. These are pretty small starts, and I started to try and mulch around it, and it was just really difficult. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna wait. I think it'll be fine. I will be harvesting these pretty quickly, and then I'll just go back through and mulch over it. Now I do need to go through and thin, because as you guys can see here, that's a lot of stinking radish. And so I did just heavily seed these. I do have some pest damage already, but I will just go through and thin some of these out, but it goes all the way down there. And so that'll be, even after I thin, we'll just eat, whatever I thin out, we'll just eat as microgreens. That's still a good bit. So these over here are my slicers. So we've got the Kellogg's Breakfast. We have got the German Johnson Pink, or the German Johnson Red. We have the blueberries, the pink boar, and the variegated Cherokee Purple. These are getting pretty big. Now this color is actually the color it's supposed to be, because it's that blueberry cherry. I do want to see though if I'm seeing any more variegation. Oh yeah, we have some. Can you guys see that? I was curious, you know, after being told that they don't look as variegated in the sun, but look at that. You can see that pretty well. So I am really excited to have one of these in the garden. Now, I did need your guys' help on something. As I have mentioned, I'm a little willy-nilly in the garden this year because I can be. And so I remember planting rutabaga, and to my knowledge, I thought I planted it on this bed in between the nasturtium and the bean trellis. Now, I'm sure I mentioned that on a video somewhere. However, I have no idea which one. And so I have not mulched this area of the bed. You guys can see here it's blank, and that is because, if I remembered correctly, I'm pretty sure I sowed rutabaga here, and so I didn't want to cover that up again when I was talking about them just having to fight through a bunch of layers of mulch. I was just going to wait until they got a bit bigger and then go in and mulch around them. So with that being said, if any of you guys remember if this is indeed the bed I sowed the rutabaga in, would you do me the biggest favor and just leave that in the comment below? Because if I didn't, if I just thought I planted rutabaga and I really didn't, then this is a lot of space I could fill up. I know that's so silly, but you know, sometimes I just, well, I'm a mama with 3 kids, right? Y'all feel me. Sometimes I forget what I do. Over here, it's so strange too. So the white marigold that's in that corner bed over there looks honestly kind of yellow in my opinion. But the white marigold that I've got in this bed looks very white already. I don't know if that's pretty typical and standard. But you guys can kind of see here that this one's taking, you know, just a beautiful white color. And I don't know what it will look like, if the other one will look more white once it, you know, blooms out or not. But this one's got a couple little side shoots here. My beans are looking fantastic. I even saw one earlier. Look, it's starting to get, oh yeah, it's this one. Look, it's starting to get ready to climb. So I usually just go through and try to help it out. That little guy's probably not going to stay, but they are all doing really, really well. So that is encouraging. And that little guy looks like it's kind of nubbed down. Then my fava beans over here. Y'all check these out. I'm telling you, I have never grown these before, but they will probably always be on my list. They feel very interesting too. They have this really distinct texture. But look how big these guys are. I mean, that's amazing. Here's another one of these marigolds. This was in one of the grow bags that I just had over here kind of randomly. And I thought, well, I'll bring this into a little bit more into the garden. It hasn't quite opened yet. And then over here, hey Lily, I've got peppers, more peppers. I've got the opal basil. Ooh, something got that too. Man, look at there. We've got some more peppers. Look at that one already. Ooh, look at that. Wonder what that one is. Little baby peppers are the cutest. Look at that. Oh yeah. I was mulching the squash bed earlier and I saw some tiny, tiny squash, and y'all, there's nothing cuter to me than baby peppers and baby squash, which is why I know many of you would probably tell me I need to pick those off. And honestly, I probably should. I just can't bring myself to do it. I just cannot bring myself to do it. So this right here, this long bed, is where I have got some large slicers and cherry tomatoes, I believe. Here's a pepper. So the pepper that was here, I had to completely rip out. It was nibbled down to just a single stem. Speaking of cute peppers, look at that guy. I had a bunch of random peppers I was taking to Jess's. She is planting a lot of peppers, so I just replaced that one. And then I had the eggplant here that I had to rip out because it was completely gnawed down by the time I woke up this morning to a single stalk. Now, I have not found anything to put in its place. I have plenty of peppers, so I'll probably just stick another pepper in its place. Many of you said that it looked like it was slug damage, and I have seen, not a ton, but I have seen a couple slugs in the garden. So maybe that's it. I really don't know. It's kind of a bummer because that was the only eggplant that I had and I did want to just try it. So that's not gonna happen. However, that's the way it goes, honestly. With gardening, it's so unpredictable. There's so many things that as the gardener, you have no control over, right? And that would be weather. It's a huge thing that most gardeners and farmers would say they have absolutely no control over. And then pests, like you have no idea. I remember we had our Great Pyrenees Tula. I had replanted my squash, I don't even know how many times, and she would just get in and dig it up and dig it up and dig it up. Granted, I could solve that problem. We put an electric fence around the garden. But I say all this to say, it really stinks, right? I wanted eggplant in my garden. One, because I'd never grown it. Two, I wanted to try to incorporate it in what we eat more because we really don't eat eggplant. But a pest took it out. And if a pest needed it that bad, I'm like, more power to you, brother. But honestly, now that I know that there's a problem, I'm now going to go into problem solving mode, right? I'm going to find some sort of diatomaceous earth. I'm going to find some sort of dipeller. Try to really figure out what pest it is and figure out the best natural solution to get rid of that pest. But I'm not going to let it discourage me because I am growing as a gardener through this process. I am figuring out new things. I am getting a mentality of not being defeated by the garden and knowing that each obstacle is just a refinement in me, right? And so I really want to encourage you because obstacles are going to come. There are going to be some things you can't control, like pests and weather. You may have a dog come in. You may have a rabbit or a squirrel or whatever it is that you're dealing with in your area. There are some things that you just can't predict. And while I could have gotten so bent out of shape and just been so mad and been like, this isn't even worth it, I'm not going to do that because gardening is 100% worth it. Because I'm going to have wins and I'm going to have victories in my garden this year. I'm not going to get discouraged because some pest has outsmarted me for the time being. I'm going to be thankful for the food that I'm already harvesting out of my garden, which would be strawberries, which would be lettuce and kale. I'm going to have beans really soon. And so I really just want to take a moment and encourage you, whatever obstacle comes this year for you in your garden, use that as a learning tool. Take that obstacle and really just find some refinement in the process of learning through that. Don't be discouraged. It's not that you don't know what you're doing or that you're not capable of gardening. You 100% are capable of gardening, I promise. Sometimes just things come up that we just can't control. My onions over here are looking really good. So this will be the second or third year that we have put our onions just as a border around our plants or around our beds, and we've honestly had no issue with them. Here is our black from Tula. This guy is really big. Here's another blueberry, cherry, tomato, looking pretty good. So down here, you guys can kind of see there's some space in the mulch, and that is because I transplanted out more beets. So in every little hole and pocket here, I have got more little beet babies, trying to keep the mulch off of it as best as I can. And so hopefully we'll be harvesting some beets soon. Our basil and the grow bags are doing really well. The goji berry, I don't really know how quickly these grow, but so far I haven't really noticed much growth since moving it in the grow bag. Here's some peppers, another pepper. Here's the citronella that I'm having to pot out. There's actually 2 different plants in here, which is nice. So I've just separated them and kind of gotten 2 for the price of 1. And then I have this entire tray here that is going to Jessica's. I've got here my carnations. If y'all remember when I started these, they all look really good. I've moved them out into the garden, meaning I've just moved the entire tray out into the garden. And they look good. I just think that they're probably ready to be in the ground. You guys can see here we got some pretty good roots going on. I planted all the zinnias first because I knew I had a place to sell those. And I had grown them in the past. So I felt a bit more comfortable with that. With the carnations, I have never grown these. I don't really know the first thing about them, if I'm being completely honest. And then after figuring out space in the garden, I realized I didn't really have a space for these. So I texted Jessica and asked if she had a space for these, and she said, yeah. And so I'm gonna take all these over there. And then I have some peppers. The peppers that I have, because she is growing a lot of peppers, a viewer sent me some fish peppers, and so I really wanted to grow those to where I could actually be harvesting them and save the seeds. So some of those are going over there. And just some like lilac bell, a couple unique varieties that I would want to harvest and save the seeds from. And then someone asked, I can't believe you're taking tomatoes to Jessica's. I'm only taking 4, and I grew these for her. And these are the variegated Cherokee purple. And so these will be the ones that go over there. I'm still just in awe at this variegation. Can y'all see that? Let's see. Can you see how pretty that is? Yeah, so I know how she feels about variegated plants. I knew that she was going to want to grow some of these to save the seeds from. And so that's why these are going in her garden. I know she probably doesn't need any more tomato plants, but I also know that she can't really say no to any more tomato plants either. And so that'll kind of be cool to, you know, go over there this summer and see all these carnations that I started out there. And speaking of that, I wanted to take you guys to this bed down here and tell you kind of what I ended up doing and why I ended up doing it. So in my squash bed, where I've got my center cut squash, I've got my fine round zucchini, my Zenfire squash, Zenfire, I don't remember. I've got those all here, which I really wanted to show you because some of these I was seeing the baby squash, and it's when I had a total moment earlier. Let's see where it is. Oh yeah, it's right there. Okay, so this is the one that is yellow with the green butt. I don't know if y'all can tell. Look at that little baby squash. It is so adorable. So that's what this plant is. It's looking pretty good. My center cut squashes are looking pretty good too. They've grown quite a bit since I put them in the ground. So that's here and there, and then they're also on the other end of the trellis to hopefully just vine up. I don't remember which one of these are squash or zucchini, and honestly, it really doesn't matter. I am finding random holes, so I'm assuming that's where Nathan planted me some surprise stuff. But I had this whole section I talked to you guys about, asking your input on what should I put in this half of this bed. So I had originally thought that I was going to do pumpkins because I had ordered a lot of really cool pumpkin varieties from Johnny's last year. I grew them at the wrong time. Total rookie mistake. Never grew pumpkins before. And so didn't grow them in the right time. And so I thought that would be really cool because whoever had our house in the fall would be harvesting pumpkins. Many of you said watermelon, which I also thought would be a really good idea. I thought about different herbs. A lot of people said herbs. There was a lot of really good suggestions, so thank you for that. I really do like kind of having a sounding board to bounce ideas off of and interact with you guys. Like, I really do like that a lot, so thank you for all your suggestions. And while I was out here kind of filling up all the spaces in the garden, I realized that I had not planted my mammoth multi-headed sunflower, which I don't know if it is really going to be that, but I did want to grow it again this year to see if it threw that again, and if so, to properly save the seeds. And so I was realizing that I didn't have a space for that in the garden, and I started getting really worried. And so I was going through all my sunflower seeds, trying to find the seeds that I'd saved last year from that. And I came across some sunflower seeds that last year Jessica had come over for dinner, and she brought me this beautiful bouquet of some Sunpro cut sunflowers, and it was just the most beautiful arrangement of colors, and I ended up saving the seeds from that because I wanted to attempt to grow them myself. And so I come across this bag, and it just says Jessica's sunflowers, or vase sunflowers, or something random that I wrote on there that like jogged my memory of like, oh yeah, this is when she brought me these. And I thought, you know what, she is growing so many things in her garden for me, and so many things, like I'm bringing her plants that I've started here that she's gonna plant there, and I thought it would be really cool to plant something from Jessica's garden in here. And a lot of the sunflowers go for a really long time, so there's a good chance that we'll still have sunflowers, and then the next people who buy our property will have that, you know, something special. I just thought that that would be really cool to plant something that came from her farm on my farm as we like start to transition out of this season. And so that's actually what I ended up doing. Nathan came out here and he planted 2 rows, and then the back row of the bed I think he planted with the mammoth sunflowers. So we'll see. I'm hopeful that they come up. I just thought, although all those suggestions were amazing, something about that just really kind of resonated with me, and I thought this would be really sweet if I did this. I also decided to do something kind of crazy too, because again, this is just the year of doing all the things whimsical. So I have this little guy, and I had this little guy last year in front of that arch, and I grew cucamelons, and they've vined up him really well. So I wanted him to make his appearance back in the garden this year. I didn't really have a place for him, so I ended up plopping him right here. And what I did was throw cucamelons, a bunch of cucamelon seeds down underneath there. Now, many of you, if you've been following our channel for a while, and you know that I grew cucamelons last year, I don't have the best luck growing cucamelons, and I also didn't just like love them. I wasn't just over the moon about them as I thought I was going to be. However, again, keeping in mind that what I'm doing now is going to be for the next person, I thought, whoever buys our farm, I know for a fact the cucamelons will still be coming in hot at the end of the summer. A lot of people may not have access to cucamelons or be able to get seeds, and I thought if I could have these cucamelons, that would be so cool, because someone else could save the seeds for them, or someone else could maybe experience that for the first time if they've been wanting to. And so I just kind of threw it in, see if they're gonna grow. I thought that would be really nice to kind of pass on to the next person. All right, so we are winding down the tour. I only have 2 more beds left to show you guys. Our strawberry bed, there's actually a bunch of strawberries over here. Oh goodness, here's a bunch of strawberries. Yeah, I definitely need to go grab Charlie because she would love that, to harvest some of these. So this is just gonna take a lot of diligent looking. I mean, look at all of those. This thing is loaded, they're just not turning yet. So, I mean, check that out. That's insane. I'll probably go grab her, let her wrap up the end of the tour with me and pick some strawberries. Here's our onions with the couple rogue strawberries. Uh-oh, that one's no good. Have to throw that guy in the compost. Down here we have our garlic. It's still kind of wild to me that I grew this because, you know, our garlic patch is over there. And I just took that and brought it in here. It's doing really good. It looks really, really pretty. I did come in mulch in here today as well. I showed y'all this the other day. Well, in yesterday's video, actually, when I was harvesting some of this for dinner. I was kind of reckless with the straw, if you can't tell. The spinach, I mean, check that out. That spinach is huge. I mean, literally, that leaf of spinach. You go find me spinach in the store that looks like that. You just don't get spinach that big in the store. I mean, that's almost like, that's my kid's hand. I also was really starting to look at the celery today and became extremely, extremely happy. I mean, look at that. That, my friends, is a stalk of celery. We've never grown this before. I don't know why. Nathan and I had this conversation today too. Like, why haven't we grown celery before? I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that I will grow it from here on out because we actually eat a lot of celery. I think because I've never been able to grow it successfully from seeds that I just haven't ever grown it. But if I can source it out, then I probably will from now on because these are just rocking and rolling. And here we have some more spinach and some lettuce. All right, birthday girl, I wanted to show you something.
What is it?
Well, come here. We're going to go to the strawberry bed. Are you excited?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the strawberry bed. She's my,
I made it!
You did. What, do you see anything?
Huh?
Do you see anything?
I see strawberries!
Well, you can pick the ones that are ready.
Oh, that one's juicy.
It is. Well, here, you eat it. That's why I came to get you, silly. Is it dirty?
That's when we buy in pancake. It's too dirty.
Let me see. Oh.
Look at all these strawberries!
Okay, I kind of butchered it, but there you go. Just pop it in your mouth. You won't be able to taste the dirt. We're going to take that one to Junie B. I'll have to wash that one off. It is a little dirty.
There's more.
Can you believe that these are all going to be strawberries? Look at them, sorry. They're everywhere. Not all ready yet, but there's a bunch of them. Have you had a good birthday?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your favorite part of your birthday?
Hanging out with my family.
Oh, you are my sweetest baby. So Dad took her, what did you have for breakfast? What did you get it?
A donut with a tag which said happy birthday.
So she had donuts for breakfast. We don't really do a lot of sugar. She was kind of on a sugar high. And then I bought cupcakes to take to her classroom for school today. Since she had cupcakes for snack. Then she had another cupcake for dessert for her birthday. So Charlie has just been spoiled with all of the sweets today, which is what makes her little heart happy. And out of all of those fun things, it was so sweet for you to say that hanging out with us was your favorite thing. It was really sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us as we finished our official week 2 garden tour. I know this week's was a little bit different, kind of a family version, but I would not have had it any other way. I got to spend some time with my sweet Charlie. Now we're gonna go inside and snuggle, but thank you guys so much for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon.